frogs, lizards, and rabbits, they all have jaws. Okay. So we come up, our next node there is the question is legs, right? Does the organism have legs? So fish don't have legs, so they came off here by themselves. But rabbits, lizards, and frogs was a yes, they actually have legs. Okay, coming up to my next node, that question there is eggs with amnion. So amnion means amniotic fluid. There's stuff like a yolk sac. So frogs, amphibians, they actually don't make any amnion. So they come down here, frogs are by themselves, but rabbits and lizards, since they do make amnion, they come up here on this branch. And then finally, we can make another one and ask hair. So, does the organism have hair? Rabbits have hair or fur, if you want to call them fur, but lizards, they have scales. So, lizards came off to no, rabbits came up to yes. So, each time you come to a branch, you need to ask a yes or no question or a characteristic. And if it has a characteristic, you put it on that branch. And if it doesn't have a characteristic, it comes off of that branch. So, it's pretty easy when you're looking at traits, because a lot of organisms share traits. So homology is a good kind of thing to look for when you're trying to make trees. So going back to all vertebra, right? We talked about this a couple lectures ago, but all vertebrates have the same upper arm bones, right? So when you look at the bird, the bat, the horse, the porpoise, and the human, their upper arm, right, all has the same bones. Humerus, radius ulna, radius ulna. So that's a shared characteristic. So you can actually, if you were doing a tree about bones, all these individuals would be on the same tree because they all have the same structures. Now, an issue is these structures here analogous. So there might be structures that are similar in function, but they're not really created the same way. So wings are a good example of this. So notice how I said wings and not bones, because the wings of the bird, the wings of the bat, and the wings of the insect are all different structure wise. Birds have hollow bones and feathers for their wings. Mammals, like the bat there, it has dense bones and skin flaps. And insects have no bones, but kind of a fibrous sugar exoskeleton. So even though they all have wings, you wouldn't want to put them together on the same branch, because their wings are made of different things. And then we have uh, big groups of organisms on the same branch. Those groups together are called clades. So notice how this is that same tree from a while ago, the lamprey, the fish, lizard, rabbit, and now we have a human on there. So if we were to go all the way back here and include the entire tree, that red line there, that would be a clade because they're all together, and that would be I can talk, our vibrata clade. So vibrata means that we have backbones, that we have all have a spinal cord with a backbone casing. And then up here, the kind of pinkish looking one, the lizard, the rabbit, and the human, they all make amnion. So they are the amniotoclad. So this the orange triangle there is the amniotoclad. The whole green triangle is the vertebratoclad. You can actually break off the rabbit and the human, and you can make this like this triangle here. If I made it red, that triangle itself would also be a clad. And then the mammal and the human would be the mammalia clad because they are mammals. So each little triangle is its own clad because it has its own little characteristic for that specific section of the tree. Okay, let's see. So normally with my lecture, what I do is we do an activity. So what we're going to do, I'm going to help you find these organisms, and then we're going to try to place them on the tree based on their characteristics. Okay. So let me go over here and share my other screen. I'm share my complete screen. Okay. So I'm pretty sure this is how every country does it with taxonomy because since we all use the same naming system. So what you're seeing on the species list, those are my scientific names. So that's how I would classify those organisms, right? So if I was to look this up anywhere, I would get this exact same thing. When I'm again English, hopefully every language does the exact same thing. Uh, let's see. How do I spell that? Imera. Yeah. So I want this guy right here. This guy right here, it's called a coelacanth. So if you didn't know, coelacanths are they're referred to as living fossils. We actually thought these guys were extinct, but we actually found a big population of these in Africa. And I'll go ahead and tell you, just to help with the activity, these guys are also known as walking fish because walking fish have a front shoulder and a back pelvis, unlike other fish that just have fins. So, oops, try that again. All right. So I'm going to put the coelacanth up here. There's one of the organisms. Chachardern is going to be something that you probably recognize. It's megalodon. I don't want megalodon. I want Charturus. That's what I want. Great white. So this guy right here, Chachardon, is the great white shark. Here, next one's Ursa americanus. So that's a bear. You can do this much faster about a mouse instead of a touchpad. Okay, Branchiostomata floridae. You might not recognize this one. Branchiostomata floridae. So this guy right here, it's called a lancelet. It's kind of like a fish, but it doesn't have any bones. I'll put it here. Carassus arcturus. Is that right? AUR. There it is. All right, this is the goldfish. Ah, come on. Paste. All right, this guy here is called an axolotl. So it's kind of like a salamander, but he never forms lungs. He always has gills. And then Crocodilus Nicotus. Crocodilus nicotus. The Nile crocodile. Come on. Okay. So these are all my organisms. Let's run down the room here. That over there. This up here. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to take these organisms that I found and we want to try to place them on the tree where they should go. So this whole tree, if I go to the very bottom of it, it says chordata, right? So everything that you see on the screen is a chordate, meaning it has spinal cord. Okay, it doesn't really have a brain that one of them doesn't, but it has a spinal cord. And then from there, I'm going to come up to this first node. So right there is my first node, and it's asking me a question. So my question is vertebrate. So which there's one individual on the screen that doesn't have a vertical column. Anybody want to try to take a guess what it is? Or which one it is? Everybody knows what the spinal cord is, right?
Yeah.
Which one?
I guess the fish that doesn't have the bone.
The one that doesn't have bones? So this one?
Oh no 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 not that one.
Which one do you think it is?
Yeah. Pa.
So it is actually this one.
Oh
I'll bring him over here. So this guy here, I'll put on this branch because he's not a vertebrate. So if I was to put a yes or no question, right? Let me find my boxes. So this node means no, and then up here with this arrow, oops, don't move that. We have the box. The arrows mean yes. So if I look at again an axolotl, a great white shark, a coelacanth, a bear, a goldfish, and a crocodile, they all are yes. They have a spinal cord, so they should go on this branch. So I come up to my next node, which is right here, and it's asking me a question, produce bone. So there's one individual that I have that, again, not this guy, we've already done with him, but all the other ones, there's one individual in this group that does not produce bone. Anybody know what that is? Okay, how about we walk through them in order, right? Crocodiles. Do you think crocodiles have bones? They have a skeleton. You think so? I see a head shake. Yeah. So crocodiles have bones, right? Goldfish. You think goldfish has bones? You
yes,
ever eat fish?
still have bones.
They do, right? So
Yes,
you ever eat fish? They're bony, right? So goldfish have bones. Bears. Think bears have bones?
of course. Yes,
Okay. Coelacanth, the fish. You think it has bones?
yes,
Shark.
yes.
We'll come back to shark. Salamander?
The middle, I guess the axle.
You think it's the axolotl? What if
Yes.
I told you it's a shark? Did you know sharks don't have bones?
Oh,
So they actually have cartilage, but sharks do not have any ossified bone. This is why it's very hard to find a shark skeleton because shark skeletons really don't exist because they don't have any bone. They do have teeth though, but don't count as bone. So the shark comes off because it doesn't produce bone. All these guys, the left, produce bone. Okay, come up to my next node. My next note is arms and legs. So, which individual on that are left doesn't have any arms or legs?
There are
Three of them's
already
easy.
two. There are already two.
You think there's two?
Yeah. Fish with the goldfish and the big one.
That one? So you think it's one of these two? I will say that, right? So remember I told you a while ago that this guy here is known as a walking fish.
Huh?
So he actually has legs.
Really?
He's a walk. He's a walking fish.
Oh my God! How
He's
he's
got legs.
walking inside of the water?
You ever seen mud skippers? You know what a mud skipper is?
Yes.
That's a walking fish.
Oh, I see.
And then okay, so he goes here. Now we have our next node, which is this one right here. My question is lungs. So see how I have two brackets? So that means there's two individuals that are left that do not have lungs,
Yes.
right? We know this guy doesn't because you can see his
Yeah.
gills.
Yes. Of course.
And then also it's this guy, right?
Yes.
No lungs.
Because it's also fish. Simpannya juga jangan di atas meja. They didn't need air.
These guys don't, but
Oh,
there are some that mm,
what?
technically can breathe through their skin, but they don't have lungs, but they can breathe air.
Breathing with skin, but
They
not
breathe through their
popping.
skin. Yep.
Because
Okay, my last
when I eat
node.
fish, when I eat fish, there's no lungs at all at fish.
No, um, nothing. No, the kind of primitive fish with lungs would be kind of amphibians, because amphibians a mixture between a fish and a
Oh, okay.
because they start out with gills, right, and then they form lungs. We have warm-blooded. So warm-blooded goes at the top, and that's my bear. And then we have the crocodilus. He goes down here because he is not warm-blooded. So this is how tree would work. So again, if I start at the bottom, everything that's on this branch, which is everything, it has a spinal cord. When I come up to this node, vertebrate, everything from, well, it's kind of hard to show you from my hands. Let's see, draw. Everything from there up has a backbone. Everything from there up produces bone. Everything from there up has arms and legs. Everything from there up is lungs, and then everything from there up is warm-blooded. So you can do this pretty much any way you want to, as long as the characteristics match for every organism. Okay, I do have one more. This one's a little more difficult though. That one was all animals. I'm gonna throw some weird stuff in there. How about that? Let's see. What was that first one? Agarus bosporus. I don't see my. Okay, we're gonna do mushrooms. You can do this with anything that's alive. Remember that. I don't know why it's not copying. Copy. Paste. Thank you. Okay, Vulpes, Vulpes. I know what that is. Is fox. Acer saccharium. That is a sugar maple. Let's see. Varanus, comododensis. Let me see. Well, why you ain't copying? Come on. It'd be faster if you Paramecium and Streptococcus. Okay. There's all my guys. There's all my participators. Get out of the way. So notice how I didn't tell you characteristics, all right? We're going to try to come up with our own stuff. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to look at our organisms in mushroom, fox, paramecium, a maple tree, Komodo dragon, and a bacteria. Which one of these six do you think is the least um, similar, or which has the biggest difference? Which one do you think? I'll give you a hint. Think about those domains we talked about, right? One of these is in their own domain. Anybody have a clue? At
No.
least you're honest. Okay. So let's think about this. My domains, right? Eukarya, prokarya, or bacteria, and archaea, right? Eukarya means they have a nucleus. So with the mushrooms, do you think they would have a nucleus in their cells? Yes. So mushrooms have a nucleus.
Yes.
Foxes,
Oh,
they
the
foxes are in
the streptococcus.
Streptococcus? Yes. So Streptococcus is a bacteria.
Yes.
So that is our
Bacteria doesn't even have cells.
no, it is a bacteria is a cell. Yes. Bacteria is our cells. They just don't have a nucleus. So what I'm going to do is let's see. Get a text box. My control box is in the way. Text box. We're going to put right here nucleus. That means everything that is going up in this direction has a nucleus, and then the one lone guy that came off in this direction does not have a nucleus, and that was my bacteria. Okay, so now we have these five left. Which of the okay? Ignore the bacteria. We've done put him up, right? Which one now is the most different? Which one do y'all think?
The the oval one, the like that one.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, you're right, because this is a paramecium. The
Yes.
paramecium
Sandal.
is microscopic, meaning that I can't see that with my naked eye. The only way I could see that paramecium is with a microscope. So I'm gonna
Everything
throw him
can
right
see.
there.
You can see everything in the picture except that one.
Exactly, that's right. So that we're gonna put another text box here, if I can find it. It keeps going away. We'll put one right here, and I'm gonna put multicellular because the paramecium is only one cell. It's so small that I can't see it by itself. However, the mushroom, the fox, the maple tree, and the Komodo dragon, they're made up of millions of cells. So I can see them with my naked eye. I misspelled multicellular. MULT. It's the hit the wrong spot. All right. Again, ignoring these two, we have four individuals left. Which of the four should I put next? Which one is the most different now? This one might be confusing, but think about this.
Oh, the sugar maple.
The which one?
Sugar maple.
You think it's sugar maple? Why do you think it's sugar maple? Give me a reason.
Yes. Uh, yeah. It's
I mean, you're right, but why?
just guess. Because
How about this?
it
What
could.
can what can a plant do that you cannot do?
Well, oh, photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. Perfect. So the the plant can go through photosynthesis, and the Komodo dragon, the mushrooms, and the fox, it cannot. So that's what we're going to put next. We're going to put right here. So I'm going to put uh eats because everything, even the mushroom, it has to eat. But the plant can actually make its own food. It doesn't have to ingest anything because it can go through photosynthesis. Okay, now I have the mushroom, the fox, and the dragon. Which one's most different now?
The mushroom.
Okay, we're gonna put mushroom. This guy's over here. So, what is special about the fox and the dragon that the mushroom kind of is left out on its own? What can we put there? So, I mean, you can again, this can be anything, right? What's one big difference between the mushroom and the dragon and the fox? Anything you can think of.
The mushroom is only a food, but the others is animal.
There you go. I can put animal there. So if animal is my question, the mushroom is not an animal, it comes off by itself, but the fox and the dragon are. Perfect. Now, we have one more separation to do, right? So
Yes.
I, I can put these either way. I can put this guy here at the bottom or this guy at the top. I'll put him at the bottom, and then I'll put him at the top. Free, no. So again, what's something here that we can say separates the fox and the dragon? I can put right there.
The fox can stay in the what is that called? Snowy place.
Okay, so
But
you're saying
but the Komodo dragon cannot.
okay. Um, Why is that? Why can't the Komodo dragon live in cold weather? What's the fox have that the dragon doesn't?
Fox have a fur, but the Komodo dragon not. Him
Perfect.
don't have.
So that's my question. Does the organism have fur? Yes. And I put the fox on that branch. The Komodo dragon has scales. So it came off no. So this is a perfect way to sort these guys. You have the most obvious differences at the bottom, but as you get closer and go to the top, you start to see more and more relationships. So we're going to get to this later in a couple lectures, but fungus, which is the mushroom here, they're actually closely related to animals than they are plants, and a lot of people consider fungus a plant, but funguses can't go through photosynthesis, so they are not plants. Okay. This is going to lead perfectly into the next little section, so I can go ahead and start that since we have a little time left. Let me get it opened. Let's see which it's going to be this one. So this next chapter that we do, it leads off where what we just learned with that last lecture. So it starts off with the domains of life. We're actually going to work our way through the different domains and then into the kingdoms of life. So domains again, this is my biggest taxonomic level, and there's only three domains. So every living thing should fit into one of these three domains. We have the archaea, the bacteria, and the eukarya. So archaea, whoops, let me click on that one. Archaea, if you know what the word archaic means, archaic is a kind of Latin for old. And the eukarya are some of the oldest life on the planet in the fossil record. That's why we call them the archaea group. They are prokaryotes, meaning that they don't have a nucleus. They're very similar to bacteria in that way. What's also special about a lot of the eukarya, I mean, not eukarya, archaea, archaea are also called extremophiles. So they live in extreme environments. So think of places on our Earth where you would not expect life, right? Volcanoes. So at the bases of volcanoes and volcanic vents, very hot water. Poison gas swamps where other life would die. Ice sheets. So literally frozen ice. There's archaea in there. And when we are looking at life for life on other planets, think about Mercury and Venus. They're nothing but balls of gas, right? And if we have bacteria and stuff that can live in that environment on our planet, they might be living in the same environments on other planets. So that's what we're looking for when we're looking for life on Earth, not big organisms like us. Again, bacteria are the most common life on Earth. Bacteria is found everywhere. It's found in air. It's found on surfaces. It's found in water and soil. It's the most common organism, and if you were to take all the bacteria on Earth and kind of weigh it, give it a weight, you would have way more biomass of bacteria compared to anything else. You can add up plants, animals, and fungi, the other large species, and they out surpass the weight with the bacteria. And then you have archaea. So archaea are going to be organisms with a nucleus like us. So these are just some of the examples that we're going to go over in this lecture. So most of these are from the bacteria, the archaea, and the fungal group. Animals and plants are going to have their own chapters. Um, but let's see. This one, this one, and this one. These are all bacteria. In fact, this one is special. This one's archaea. This actually lives in the stomach. So you actually have archaea in your stomach because it's acid, and it's one of those extreme environments where most life wouldn't be able to survive. Let's see. These guys here, these are eukaryotes. See these little dark spots in the middle there? Those are nuclei. So those aren't bacteria cells. Those are protists, and that is causing the African sleeping disease. Let's see. That's mold, that's a fungus, that's a fungus, and that's also a fungus. So that last one there is called ringworm. We call it, well, it's called ringworm here in the United States. I don't know what everybody else calls it, but it's actually a fungus that grows on the skin. So these are the kingdoms of life. Again, kingdom is our next biggest category. Moneras are going to be the bacteria group. Again, very big, very huge kingdom. Protists are going to be individuals that a lot of people do not even know exist, but these are microscopic organisms, and these microscopic organisms have a nucleus. They separate the whole um, group from bacteria because, again, bacteria are prokaryotes, and then you have protists, which are eukaryotes. You have the plantae. So these are organisms that are multicellular and can do photosynthesis. Fungi, multicellular, but they're saprotrophic because the way they feed is they spit out digestive acid. They digest their food from the outside and then absorb it back in. We are the opposite. We ingest first with animals, and then we digest and break down without having to reabsorb again. And that would be the animals. Uh, so you can kind of see a movement here when you're looking at the relationship of organisms. Bacteria and archaea, they look similar. And then archaea and eukarya, they have similar characteristics and similar proteins. We all share the same sort of foundation when it comes to cellular processes. Bacteria, archaea, and eukarya, we all do transcription and translation, right? We all have DNA made of the four same nucleotides. We all use the same 20 amino acids. So there's really not that much of a difference when you're looking at the foundation that we all use to build our cellular functions with proteins and sugars and stuff like that. Okay, we'll start with bacteria and archaea. So these guys have been on the earth the longest. So going back through our fossil record, you can see again the layers of rock. The very first signs of life on the planet are the microscopic bacteria and archaea. Again, archaeas were first because they were the ancient ones, and then bacteria arose. Like I said, they are found pretty much everywhere on the planet. So you can go in water, soil, air, and take little samples, and you will find bacteria there. You can't go a place on the planet without bacteria, even Antarctica, the cold place. There's very few examples of them being big. Most of them are going to be microbes. So a microbe is an organism you cannot see with your naked eye, and you can only see it if you use a microscope. So again, these were recently discovered in our scientific history because of with the introduction of the microscope. Again, we'll come back to these later, but you can actually look at the bacteria shape. So it's circle here, rod shape, spiral. And you can classify very similar to the way you can classify animals based on their appearances, like scales and fur and stuff like that. This right here is showing you an area inside of a geyser. So this is a volcanic geyser. That water will boil anything, boil any animal, boil any bacteria, except if you were to sample it, you find living archaea in there. So this is what I was talking about. You can find bacteria or bacteria, archaea in extreme places where you would not expect life to be. So a little bit more on the bacteria. The way I like to tell my class is imagine that you have a very thin sheet of plastic, right? Like a saran wrap. So with the saran wrap, if it was to go all the way around the world and coat the world in plastic, but instead of plastic, that little coat is bacteria. You cannot go anywhere on our planet without finding bacteria. What's kind of scary is some of these bacteria have the ability to go dormant. And when they go dormant, they make these things called endospores. And endospores are inactive bacteria cells. They can survive for thousands of years and never have to go through metabolism. And then when they wake up, they can go right back to living like normal. What's kind of scary with this is imagine our ice caps, right? In Antarctica, in the Arctic. Those ice caps are receding, they're getting thinner each year, right? Because of the global warming. So as these air pockets open up to our environment, it might be releasing bacteria that has not been on our planet for millions of years. So this is kind of scary because we might not be adapted to that yet. We might have to go through a selection event where if these bacteria come into our environment or population, we have to learn to fight them off again. And we might make to the immune system talk about that. One important bacteria was this one, the cyanobacteria. So cyanobacteria used to be classified as blue-green algae because it's actually pretty large. You can see the woman up in the corner and that green stuff she's pointing at. That is cyanobacteria, but it looks like algae. It's really big. You can actually see that with your naked eye. But if you look at it very closely, it doesn't have a nucleus. So that goes back to it being a prokaryote in bacteria. Now, what's special about this guy is when the bacteria started to arise, the Earth looked completely different than what we have now. We didn't have any oxygen back then, or what oxygen was there was limited and it wasn't really usable. So with these guys being photosynthetic, they actually started producing oxygen by the tons, and that started putting oxygen back into our environment, and that led the way for other organisms to use oxygen, like plants and animals and protists. Um, so probably a little over 100 years ago, if you had to choose a natural predator for humans, you could actually say bacteria was a predator of humans because bacteria was the leading cause of death for the human population. That was until the discovery of antibiotics. So with antibiotics, that allowed us to fight off bacteria. So antibiotics really don't kill bacteria cells directly. When we take an antibiotic, that actually slows down the bacterial growth and it weakens the bacteria cell enough for us to kill it with our own body. Okay, so these are some common shapes for bacteria or the characteristics. Um, not every
Prof, you're mute.
Okay, I have no clue how that did. Okay, so you have the flagella here, right? This long whip-like tail. So that is going to be used for bacteria movement. So it's according to where the bacteria is located. If it has a flagella, it's probably located in water because it's going to be using that flagella to swim around in the water. Uh, every bacteria again doesn't have to have all these structures. These are just like a generalized bacteria cell. Some bacteria have these structures here called pili. So these bristle-looking structures, I don't know if you know what a cockleburr is, but it's kind of a spiky looking ball that sticks to animal fur. Well, those little structures there allow the bacteria to cling to surfaces. So you know how you can have bacteria on your hands and you don't wash your hands and touch the doorknob, the bacteria might stick to the doorknob. That's because the bacteria have those pili, and the pili allow them to cling to surfaces, and they transfer from surface to surface by contact. Let's see, capsules. So note here that they do have a plasma membrane. That little green line in the middle, that's my plasma membrane for the bacteria cell. When I come out, the next one, that tan green line, that's the cell wall. So we talked about cell walls before. The cell walls protect the bacteria from water. Um, Again, with our cells, if we take on too much water, they pop like a balloon. But these guys, the cell walls keep them from popping. It's kind of a water balance control. And then the last thing there is the capsule. So the capsule is outside the cell wall. It's sometimes referred to as a peptidoglycan layer. So that is going to protect the cell from external factors like your immune system. So if you are infected by a bacteria cell, you actually want one that has a very thin capsule because thin capsules are going to be easier to kill, while thick capsule bacteria are much harder to kill. It's a worse infection. And then a lot of bacteria like to do symbiosis with organisms. So a symbiosis is a relationship between two different individuals. So you have mutualistic, parasitic, and then one-sided commensalism. So we actually have a lot of examples for mutualistic bacteria. So these are helpful bacteria. These are going to be also called probiotics because probiotics meaning helpful for your body. You have them loaded in your intestine because these bacteria, A, get fed from you, but they also help break down your food and they help move the food down your tract. If you were to start to deplenish those bacteria, you're going to have digestive problems and you're going to start having issues like bloating and cramping and stuff like that. You have uh, cows and other like grass eaters. So individuals that eat grass, they actually can't break down cellulose. So the reason that they can survive on the grass, if you look inside their gut, cows and like horses and goats, they all have bacteria in their gut that's breaking down the grass for them to use as energy. Same thing with termites. Termites that eat wood, they actually can't get energy from the wood unless the bacteria in their gut breaks down the wood for them. Parasitics, the ones that everybody considers a bad type of bacteria. So if it causes a disease like strep throat or streptococcus, what's the bacteria one? Ebola's virus. Get that one. But okay, if it's a disease-causing bacteria, those are parasitic. These are the ones that you would want to take an antibiotic for if you have an infection. The last one there, one-sided or commensalisms, these are the ones that really have no effect on you or for you, but they're benefiting from you. So sweat, if you didn't know, is actually odorless. It's nothing but water. So individuals that have body odor that odor is coming from bacteria that feeds on sweat, and this bacteria starts to produce the odor. And if you were to take a bath or take a shower, you wash the bacteria off, and when you wash the bacteria off, you wash the odor off. Because sweat, again, doesn't have a smell. Okay, this is what I'm talking about with the peptidoglycan or the capsule. So note how I have a very thick blue structure and a very thin blue structure. So the thick one is a thicker peptidoglycan layer. And if we were to put this under a specific stain, that stain is purple. Okay. So a purple stain that will stain a bacteria purple is going to be referred to as a gram-positive bacteria. And the reason why it stains purple is this thick layer here, it holds the purple stain, and you can see that vibrant purple. Over here with this thinner one, we're going to use the exact same color purple, but since it's so much thinner than the big one, it doesn't hold a lot of the stain and it comes off a very light pink. So if you see a light pink bacteria after you stain it, it's a gram-negative stain. And this is commonly done for infections. The reason being the the thick layer there, that's much harder to kill. The thin layer here is much easier to kill. So if you are infected with a bacteria and it's a gram-negative bacteria, that means it's a good thing for you because it should be easier to kill. If you have a gram-positive bacteria, that's a bad thing for you because it could be much harder to get rid of. Okay, I'll finish up with this slide here. So this, again, talking about antibiotics. Antibiotics were discovered about 1918, 1920-ish. After the discovery of that, we really have done strides in killing bacteria and killing bacteria diseases. The antibiotics themselves, again, do not kill bacteria. They weaken the cells, they cause them to stop growing, and it allows your body to kill off. The bad thing here is we are seeing diseases that should not be antibiotic resistant arising. One big one is tuberculosis here in America. Another one is staphylococcus. So staphylococcus in hospitals and then tuberculosis are becoming antibiotic resistant. And the whole reason for there is the overprescription of antibiotics. It's allowing the bacteria to mutate. And then one other side effect there with antibiotics, it does not discriminate. It will kill off good bacteria and bad bacteria. So if you take an antibiotic, you might have issues with like diarrhea or constipation or bloating. That's because they kill off the probiotics in the gut, and that's going to disrupt the normal digestive tract and give you digestive issues. All right. So, yeah, that's a good stopping point. We'll pick up there next week and talk about Protus. Anybody have any questions for me?
No, thank you.
All right. All right, guys. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you,
Okay,
Ken.
Prof. Have a nice
You're
one.
welcome. I'll see y'all next week.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Okay,
and
guys.
when did this burst?
You learn a lot, huh? Barusan biologi.